We are still in session for the current Congress, the 110th Congress, which ends at the end of December. We did not adjourn or close the session because of so many outstanding matters relating to the economy. So at this stage, we're still meeting. This week, we met. We had hoped to try to deal with some of the economic issues before us, but in the Senate, they were not able to get a vote out for anything other than unemployment and benefit extension, an extension for unemployment benefits, which is good, but obviously we need to do much more. There are many Americans, as you know, over 1 million Americans have lost their jobs in less than the last year, and many of those Americans have been unemployed for more than 6 weeks, have run out of their unemployment benefits altogether. And so what we have done is now a second time is we've extended those benefits up for some of those folks beyond 6 weeks. We were hoping to do more. We were hoping, on the Democratic side, we were hoping to pass legislation which would allow us to help some of the local governments, state and local governments, begin some of their construction projects that are ready to go, because those employ people at pretty good pay. Fixing bridges, roads, schools, doing those kinds of infrastructure projects that ultimately we all want and need, but oftentimes as local governments don't have the money to get going because they're running short on cash as well. Those keep people like carpenters, plumbers, roofers, planners, architects employed longer. And so we had hoped to help the local governments by doing that. Healthcare, we were trying to help the states that are having trouble with Medicaid, which is healthcare for lower income individuals and seniors. And instead of having them cut services for those individuals who need healthcare, we were going to help them with that. We could not get, again, in the Senate, the votes. The Republicans were unwilling to give the votes necessary to let that pass in the Senate, and so we were not able to get it done. That means we probably have to wait until January when we have the new president and the new Congress to be able to get that done. President-elect Barack Obama has already said that as soon as he takes office, one of the first things he will do is he will move on this economic recovery plan, which would first and foremost invest money in the infrastructure so we can create those jobs that people need or keep people employed. And so that will be, by the way, I ask, I'm pleased that there are some things you like and that you clap. I suspect there will be things you don't like that I say, and I hope that you don't boo. So let's do this. Let's agree not to do either. We'll have more time to ask questions and make comment instead, okay? And also, let's try to be respectful of each other and of our colleagues, our fellow neighbors who may ask a question or make a comment that we may not agree with completely. There's so much going on. We are trying to determine whether or not there is something that we, and I say we because the federal government is we, the federal government doesn't operate unless we take money out of our pocket and fund the Treasury so that the government can operate. And we're trying to determine whether or not we should do something to help the U.S. auto industry. And if we should, what? Because $25 billion is a lot of money, but it's only a drop of what might be needed to keep the industry healthy. And so before we invest more money into another industry, remember $700 billion was set aside for the financial services industries. We want to make sure we know what's going to happen with the auto industry. So we're trying to get the auto companies to tell us what they would do if we gave them $25 billion in a loan. It's not a grant. It would be a loan that they have to pay back. But we want to make sure they can pay it back. And so before we give them any money, we want them to outline for us how they would use it and how it would help them get out of this economic slump that they're in. There's a big difference going on between Republicans and Democrats about whether we should help and how we should help. And we can get into that. But there are quite a few major issues coming down in the horizon that we'll have to deal with in Congress that affect you and me in many, many ways. We also have issues that will confront us with regard to this financial services bailout money that was out there. So far, about $290 billion has been used by the president. So far. He has authority to use up to $60 billion more without having to come to Congress to get the other $350 billion. I'm pretty sure we're not going to give him the other $350 billion because we haven't seen a lot of progress with the first $290 billion. But we could get into that as well. The other things I wanted to mention to you are you've heard the news that in Iraq, the government in Iraq has put forward a plan which must pass their legislature, their Congress, to try to establish a contract of conduct between the two countries, the U.S. and Iraq. What can our forces do there? What can they not do? When will we start to withdraw? What will we be doing with their government to help them? That status of forces agreement, or something similar to what would be called a status of forces agreement, is now under consideration in the Iraqi parliament. We have to see what they do, and President Bush has said that we don't need to have congressional approval of that plan for it to take effect, which disturbs many of us in Congress because only Congress can ratify those types of treaties. And he's saying it's not a treaty. We can get into that whole issue if you want as well. There are any number of issues going on, but I would imagine most of you would like to know what is going on with the economy, gas prices, things that affect you every day, and we can talk about those. I could go on any number of issues that are going to be coming up before us, but rather than continue to speak, why don't I make sure that we have an opportunity for at least 40 minutes or so to hear your comments and your questions.